Week 3 of the Rhode Island Legacy League's Winter 18 season in the books, and the closest game was a 23-point Werewolves victory, the game that, many of us may have thought was the one that wouldn't be as exciting. That was the closest margin in Week 3. We're going to break down all the Week 3 games shortly. Greg, Jared, Tyler, I'm Joey. Let's get to the game. So we'll start with that one. Out of all the games, a whole bunch of blowouts today. Werewolves take down the Average Joes 73-50, as I mentioned, the closest margin. We can kind of go through this a little more quickly, but I think the Werewolves now won 2 in a row, and I think the Average Joes, that game was closer than that score showed. I know I was keeping an eye on it, but I think the Average Joes are starting to figure things out and are going to be a team like you can't sleep against, even though they're 0-3, right?
Yeah, I agree. It was a bit tough, though, to play because the court was a bit slippery in the first half. Second half definitely was a lot better. In the first half, it seemed like the players weren't going as hard because they didn't want to get hurt or slip. But, yeah, the Werewolves came out, and it's kind of just the same old that you're used to. Heston played well. 40 struggled a lot. He even came over after, so that played horrible. But he still was there as a floor general, as a point guard. So that's something that you really can't make up for.
Yeah. Gino came over after the game and he said, I can't show myself in this league ever again after that shooting night. But they were still able to come out with the 23-point victory. So that shows that they, A, have other guys to score the ball, and B, Gino does other things than just shoot. So still able to be effective even though with a poor shooting night, and the Werewolves came up on top.
For sure. And he will definitely be here next week. So don't let him fool you on that not showing up again. Wild Hogs, Swish Kabobs, the nightcap here, 81-56. The Swish Kabobs win. That was the most highlight-filled game, so even if one of you just wants to chime in on that, got physical. That's what happens when people get dunked on, and that's just part of the deal. But the Swish Kabobs now 3-0, right? Are they the lone unbeaten?
No,
Boom as well. Okay, so there are 2. Now we have 2. And the Wild Hogs played, again, I don't think they hit a lot of shots today, but what did the Swish Kabobs do tonight?
They played lockdown defense all night, right from the start with their press. The Wild Hogs couldn't even break it. I saw them turn it over at least 10 times, just on the press that they were running, and that alone controlled the pace for the game for them.
And that'll definitely speed it up for the Swish Kabobs, who are good at finishing, in that transition game.
I noticed that the Swish Kabobs have a lot of depth. They have basically a first team and a second team, and with Kyle Vieira leading the second team, I think he almost had 20 points. Their second team could compete with a lot of first teams in this league, so that's what helps them when they have a fresh 4 coming off the bench.
Agreed. We'll have to see next week the Swish Kabobs if they can keep this up now. Like I mentioned, 3-0. An unbeaten team coming into the week gets their first loss, Prestige Worldwide, notably missing Brian Yars, player of the week, week 1. Green Squad takes them down, though, and they weren't at full strength. They didn't have a huge bench going, but Vic Kashu Jr., triple-double after 3 quarters. He did play very well. 104-58 for the Green Squad, as they improved to 2-1, I'm pretty sure, after losing last week, right? And so they're 2-1. They're back in the mix of this whole thing. Prestige also 2-1 now, and the way the tiebreaker works is head-to-head. So now if those 2 teams finish with the same record, Green Squad would have that tiebreaker. So what did they show you today? What did the Green Squad show you?
They looked hungry coming off of a loss. Victor came off the tip, jumping everywhere. He was all over the rim. I had to ask him how his wrists were after the game. And once Cody Crawford started lighting it up from three-point land, he basically could have stopped the clock and told both teams to go home. It was a heck of an offensive performance by the Green Squad, and I think they might be one of the best offensive teams in this league if they can show up like that every night.
For sure, and I think that's a good, obviously Prestige is a different team without their best, one of their best players. So, this is what happens when arguably your best player doesn't show up.
In a 4v4 league, when you're missing one of your good players, it means a lot more than in a 5v5.
Halfway and Boom, as we mentioned, one of the last undefeated. They are 3-0. They take down the Halfway Crooks when the conditions were not ideal. But that is not an excuse. Boom shakalaka. Both teams are playing on the same court, so throw that out the window. Boom hit shots. Their new player, Nate,
huge
number
addition.
17, looking very good. And that's scary for a team that was loaded prior to
already
the league.
good. Yeah,
he was a huge defensive addition. He was all over their point guard all game, stealing it, dunking it, all game.
Hitting shots.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part for players when they come in their first week. You expect to be able to give them a cushion. Because they're, let them shoot. Let's see if they can do this. And
they were just
unconscious range.
He was collecting ankles. The minute he got the ball, you could tell he was
not all him.
The minute he got the ball, you could tell he was a huge addition to the team. He crossed someone up and hit a jumper right in his eye first time he got the ball, and everyone was like, "Oh, there's Boom's new player. He's just gonna take him even better."
The amount of times players were on the floor, he was literally breaking ankles, and he had help, but he was literally breaking ankles in week 3. So Boom and Swish, as you mentioned, right, the 2 undefeated, they will play at some point. So that'll be an awesome matchup. We will keep an eye out for that. Any last words? I told you to be a quick one. There's not much to talk about when the closest game is a 23-point win.
I still don't know what to feel about this league. Last week, the biggest blowout was 11 points. This week, the closest game is 23. So next week, expect a lot of nail biters, I guess.
That's right. We'll go back and forth every other. For the guys, I'm Joey. Stay tuned for week 4. That'll be next Wednesday, obviously. The site, thelegacyleagues.com, at @legacy_leagues for highlights and tweet updates and all that good stuff. Top plays, power rankings, and the hub, player of the week voting, all that stuff on the site, thelegacyleagues.com. Podcast as well, excuse me. The Low Post, Tyler Cruz doing a great job with that. All of that on the site and more. We will see you in week 4. Thanks for watching.